Available on all streaming platforms. It's professional wrestling's greatest, largest, privately owned wrestling library. All the classic hits, flips, slams, and pins of yesteryear are on one place. It's Ultimate Classic Wrestling. Check out the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, a who's who of professional wrestling's greatest spotlight stars ever to grace the squared circle, all in one place. Grab the best seat in the house for memories and mayhem on Ultimate Classic Wrestling.
Welcome, everybody, to the Pro Wrestling Wire podcast, part of ProWrestlingWire.net. I have a very special guest here today, Mr. Stanley Karr from Wrestling with Heart, radio DJ, pro wrestling podcaster, and so much more. Stanley, how the hell are you?
Rick, thank you for having me. It's good to be back on your show. I had a great time last time, as well as you coming on my show in the past, and happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and that was pretty early on in your podcasting days. And it's your show has grown tremendously, and your guests, I have to say, are literally some of the best in the world of professional wrestling. It's kind of insane how that worked out. So, and you've been making contacts, you've been doing conventions and pushing your product hardcore out there, and it's really good to see something like that happen.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's all about work and hard work and making those connections and just trying to promote and market and grow as much as possible. You know, as a DJ, someone that's been working in radio for all these years, I know a lot of people have been getting into podcasting, and I fell into podcasting when taking a class at the community college where I work in the greater Nashville area in Tennessee. And so I just really had to discover how podcasting works. And I did it initially, Wrestling with Heart, as part of kind of a class assignment, and I just fell in love with it right away. I just attended WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas, seeing Stone Cold return, and I attended SummerSlam that year, which was in Nashville, and felt this was the best time to do a podcast on professional wrestling. So if I wanted to do a podcast on wrestling, I had to do something different, something that had never been touched on before. And I think I'd mentioned this in our last interview. And so I noticed not a lot of podcasts really talked about the human element of professional wrestling, giving back, helping out in your community, doing things for charity, and I wanted to fill that void. And now, look, we're now almost 3 years in. We hope to grow and hope to take things up in a positive direction.
So this past week, this is going back almost 3 years in, and you're almost at 200 episodes. This coming week will be your 200th episode, and you just interviewed Tigress from one of the Nitro Girls, that's kind of a rare name. And I've noticed that you, Stanley Karr, have a thing for pulling out some rare names out of the past, from, like, say, the 90s and 2000s that you don't normally see on podcasts that often.
Yeah, and I think that I go through my contact list. I try to hit up as many people as I can, and it's all about telling your story, sharing your story. If you have a message that might inspire someone, whether it is giving back or have something that you've overcome and you've paid it forward to somebody else. That's what we're about here on Wrestling with Heart. All about positivity and sharing the love and of helping others. And so that's what we're about. So yeah, I've had on Tigress. I've had on Che of the Nitro Girls, Baby, who was with them for a period of time. But I'm trying to get on some other people as well that both fans remember and haven't been on podcasts before. So I'm trying to break new ground with Wrestling with Heart.
Speaking of somebody that's never been on a podcast before, I know you and I have spoken about this guy earlier. I think it was last week, the week before, but you had on recently a name that has been out of the public eye since, geez, the early 1990s, and has really had nothing to do with professional wrestling, Mr. Ted Arcidi. And that was that's a very interesting episode to see him come out of. He just did his first, I think, convention in how many years, right? And it's very interesting to see that it was a good episode, and it's very interesting to see his name pop up in your amazing list of guests.
Thank you. Yeah, he was a great interview. Had a lot of energy, had a great story, very interesting story. How he was able to get to where he was and is, uh, doing the fitness and weightlifting and transitioning that over into the wrestling world. And now he's an actor. He's been doing a lot of acting roles. Really incredible story. Getting the chance to
Yeah,
speak with him. That was a fun interview.
I remember watching him in both the WWF, and then I remember when he went to World Class after that, and it was, and then he popped up in WCW for a brief period under a mask gimmick as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, and then that's probably about the time that he disappeared. Um, Yeah. So what else do you got going on in the radio world? I know you're constantly posting that. Are you on the radio every day or just about?
Yeah. I'm on a few times a week. I'm still working over at the community college and doing some stuff over there, and I do some part-time work over at a radio station nearby. And I've been doing the Piano Man now over 9 years for community radio, low power FM radio. So that's still going strong. I started that in 2016.
Oh wow.
So it'll be 10 years next year.
Yeah. Um, so I always see you. We don't have to necessarily always talk about wrestling. We always get off track here, talk about life and stuff. Let's talk about the Piano Man. I see you post about it all the time, and why don't you describe that show for me? Because it always seems like it's a very interesting show.
Yeah, so the Piano Men, I started that about 9 years ago. A friend of mine had a show at the radio station, music show,
Hmm.
and he knew I was into radio, and I had talked to him before about doing a show there because I had just gotten into it, fell in love with it, and he asked me if I heard back from the program director. I said, no, I haven't. And he kind of helped me come up with a suggestion because a couple suggestions because he knew I'd played piano and I'd gone to music camps for a period of time. And a show around piano players, centered around piano players, seems pretty cool. So I was like, okay. And the Piano Men just came to be. We play music from all genres, so classical, jazz, rock, blues, pop, you name it. We feature it. We have an artist that we kind of center around. Play four tunes from that particular artist, and sometimes we'll play a couple of the hits that people know and love, but we'll also play some rarities, which are tracks maybe people that weren't necessarily singles off the
Hmm.
record, but they were songs from that record, and then also album cuts,
Yeah.
which can be hits, but could be the full version. Sometimes songs may be radio cuts are like 3 minutes, album cuts are
Yeah.
like five. So we kind of play around with that a little bit, and then mix in a little bit of we play sometimes Broadway tunes that have keyboard in them or musical comedy bits. Just kind of keep things light and fun. I've had on Jim Brickman,
Okay.
who's a piano player and syndicated radio host, which is a goal of mine. And John Tesh as well, another syndicated radio host,
He's
piano player.
legend as
Yep,
well.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
both of
Yeah.
them, both of them are great to talk with.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Michael O'Mardian who played with Steely Dan and helped get Christopher Cross his start. Had him on the show. Also, David Sanchez, who was one of the early members of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. I got to talk with him, so that was a treat as well. So I've had on some pretty big names there, and I've also gotten some guests around the area. So looking at talking with as many people as I can. And the thing is, I love interviewing people, whether it's for wrestling or for music. I enjoy talking with people and how they got their start and their big break and any wisdom that they learned from other people. So I think it's that's what I most enjoy so much is about interviewing is getting to hear the other person tell their story.
Right, right. And it's your music radio just basically spilled over into the wrestling world as well. And I know there's a lot of people out there that speak very highly of your show and really enjoy the show. Um, and like you said, you take a different lighthearted look into the world of professional wrestling, and that discuss the charity work and the good deeds that some of these people have done outside of the wrestling world, which a lot of people, I don't really think a lot of wrestling podcast or any podcast really touch upon. So you're doing something different there.
Yeah, yeah, it's really the first of its kind. I'm in the process of getting Wrestling with Heart syndicated on radio, more radio stations, and I'm starting to possibly get a book together of my
Awesome.
interviews. So
Wow.
that's something I'm working on too.
That is amazing. So, and when that book comes out, you're definitely gonna have to come back and
Yeah.
let me know more about it, so we can talk that book. And uh, you're talking about getting it syndicated. Now, you actually got it on actual radio, correct? Is that
Yeah, we've been on a couple of stations. One in Atlanta, the other one in Denver, and I've been reaching out to some more places about getting it on the air. And it's a little different from the podcast, but I try to sandwich in maybe one or two guests an episode because it's an
mhm,
hour long. So I think fans of wrestling fans will definitely enjoy the radio version as well as the podcast because we've got a lot of big guests on there, as well as the names that fans may remember but haven't heard from in so many years.
right? So you also do interview independent talent, and a lot of times, the independent talent, a lot of times shows are involved with, say, fundraisers and stuff like that. Like they'll do, charity work through the independent scene. The company will do donations and stuff like that. So, um, what's it like working with like these independent talent and not necessarily the names of the past, the famous names of the past?
It's been wonderful. It's all been wonderful. Getting the chance to hear these guys and girls coming up in the industry, share their stories and their paths and where they've been, where they've gone. I've had the fortune now for the last almost 6 months, started working with a local wrestling promotion here in the greater Nashville area. CHW Championship Honor Wrestling. I've had a few people from there on the show, and we've been working together now a while, and I've just been so thrilled about the opportunity to ring announce and get involved and to see the Stars of Tomorrow really get their big break and get their start. And they've got some amazing stories. There was a guy I had on, Chris Echoes, who had done some charity work in recent years for causes. Chris Green is another one who I've had on from CHW. He's one of the sons of the owners of the promotion, so getting the chance to talk with him was very cool. And we've got more people I've talked with from the promotion about having them on, and like I said, very proud to be a part of it and looking forward to seeing what comes next.
What was it like for you to transition from being a podcaster into the world of professional wrestling? Because myself, that's kind of how I started into the world of professional wrestling. I was involved in community radio many moons ago. Probably earlier 2000s into the mid, and then I decided that after years of an absence, I was going to start a podcast, music related, of course. And then, by chance meeting into someone, I decided, and then going to an indie show, I said, I'm just going to start a wrestling podcast. And then after about 2, 3 years of doing a wrestling podcast, I was asked to do commentary for a show. And now it's been quite a few years so that I'm doing commentary for a bunch of different companies out in my area. So it's kind of exciting to get involved and getting asked and getting involved from that
Yeah,
end, you know?
it is. I had interviewed a guy. I want to give a shout out to him. I think you had him on as well. Your podcast, Aaron Camaro.
Yes, great guy,
He's
great guy.
amazing. He's
Yeah.
amazing. I want to give a special shout out to him. I had him on the show. Reached out to me maybe a couple of weeks later after his interview got out. Said, "We're looking for a ring announcer for CHW. Are you interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to do this." Late December, I got started around Christmas time. And we've got our next show coming up June 21st over at the Tennessee Guard Armory in Ashland City. So if anyone's listening to this, come on out. It's going to be a spectacular night of wrestling action. Um, but yeah, he invited me to come on board, and getting the chance to really network with these guys and meet these guys. Seeing their work, it's amazing. It is
Yeah.
hard work that these men and women do, telling their stories and really putting their lives and bodies on the line for our entertainment. Um, so I get to the arena or get to the venue, and I have to really make sure I know everybody's name and know where they're from and everything. So I have to really look at my list, and over a few shows, I start getting comfortable. I start getting into it, and I just had goosebumps, when my music started playing and I come out and getting the chance to interact with the crowd. I think that's one of my favorite parts about doing it is just engaging with the crowd and people that come in to watch. I also did a show in Alabama as well, not too long ago in a town called Danville. So I was actually supposed to do a commentary, but I guess one of the guys couldn't. The ring announcer couldn't make it, so I got to be the ring announcer again. So it was awesome, man. It was great. I love it.
Was it nerve-wracking for you to step out from behind the camera, behind the microphone, and actually in front of a large group of people? Or
Uh,
were you pretty comfortable with it?
Um, there's always going to be a little bit of nerves in the
Yeah,
beginning, but I think over time I started really warming up to it.
yeah,
I definitely, I mean, I think I've always felt comfortable, talking. That's never been an issue. But I'd have to really learn. But over time, I started really picking it up quickly, and so
nice.
just trying to get the names right pronounced and just being able to work on the fly. I can proudly say I've been able to do that and continue to do that, and it's just a blast. It really
Yeah,
is.
I've been asked to do ring announcing when they got stuck a couple times, and my thing is I could sit comfortably behind the table talking into a microphone, but it's taking the microphone and standing in front of a large group of people. For some reason, I can't do that. So I was like, sorry, dude, you're gonna have to find somebody else in the building to do it. So that's the funny part. And yeah, I think sometimes it might limit me sometimes for shows, but it's like I said, standing up in front of a large group of people is a completely different aspect than sitting behind a table and commentating.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah,
You just have to, work around stuff, be flexible, and
yeah.
just really try to go from there.
Yeah, yeah. It's have you ever been I know it's have you ever been involved in anything like a wrestler gave you a hard time, part of like, part of in character as part of a show? Because
Oh,
I've had come people come up to the table, yell at me and stuff like that into my microphone, then like walk away and stuff like that.
oh, like you're talking about like people like that I'm working with.
Yeah, like like part of the storyline. He's pissed off at
Oh yeah, yeah,
his
yeah, yeah,
opponent,
yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
stuff like
It's cool.
yeah.
It's cool. I got no problem with that. It's fun.
It is. It's kind of funny, and sometimes you got to keep a straight face. It's
Exactly.
you got to try to keep a straight face the entire time. And
Yeah.
yeah, what else? What else do you have coming up as far as that? As far as the ring announcing, just the June 21st show.
Yeah, yeah, we got shows every month. Tennessee National Guard Armory in Ashland City. June 21st is the big show coming up. We just had Chase Stevens
Nice.
of TNA. Him and Andy Douglas were there. uh, together, doing some stuff for us. So we got some people coming up. They know about us, and we're growing. And like I said, it's we're keeping on building stuff. We got some really amazing talent there. Once a month we've got a show there. People come and they're excited, and yeah, I mean it's really it's an honor. It really is
Yeah,
to be a part of that.
yeah. It's kind of special when you're asked to do that, because when I was asked, I was like, really? Me? Why me? So that it's like, okay, no problem. But I gotta tell you, it's like I was nervous the first time I did it, and I gotta tell you, like, w- after the first show, they came up to me. I was like, dude, you did awesome. And I was just like, but listening back, if I watch those videos from the first show to now, is a complete difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like the how much I've improved since then.
Exactly. It's like riding a bike, it just takes
Yeah,
practice. And so that's kind of what I'm doing is just the more I do it, the better I get. It's like with interviewing. I mean, the
yeah,
more interviews I feel like I've done, I feel like I've gotten confident in my ability to know how to map out a show. I know what questions to ask, and I can prepare
right.
because I research and formulate questions around the wrestlers and the talents. And every time, just keep doing it. Really, it's just
Yeah,
keep doing it.
yeah. How much research goes into your podcast? Do you? I know I start probably a day or two before the podcast.
Yeah, that's about right for me. I try to research the talents, especially if it's someone I know
Hmm.
super, super well. I try to do it. I try to get everybody ahead of time as much as possible. But if I know a lot about their careers, I have questions like right off the bat, like to
Right.
ask them. But I research everybody as much as possible, and like write stuff down like this guy's from here and this person worked for this company and talk to me about this and this and I try to come up with really good follow-up questions
Yeah.
because I think that's what makes a really good interview is following up with if somebody says something interesting, follow up with it. Why did this happen? Why did you do this?
Yeah. Yeah. You also recently had on Lash LaRue, who that's like that was to me that's an obscure name as well to have on a podcast. I don't think I've ever seen him on a podcast before. I could be wrong about him making podcast appearances, but after WCW closed, he didn't really do a lot. He did the artwork in PWI for quite some time, and I think he started making some appearances in the last like couple of years. But what was it like talking to someone like him?
He was great. He had a really inspiring story. Coming up from his childhood and background to helping others as far as his work with the church goes, and he's done a lot of
Hmm.
cartooning and doing drawings. I think it's fascinating how he was able to get his work into PWI and all these different wrestling magazines. It just goes to show you, wrestlers have so many talents, not just being
Yep.
able to not only just seeing what you see on television in the ring, but just anything. It's like wow, this is really amazing. This
Yeah.
guy was able to draw these cartoons, and now he's doing this, and it really was a good interview.
Yeah. Who would you say was some of your favorites that you've interviewed over the years? Because like I said, I'm looking at the list of names right here. Okay. You had Missy Hyatt on. You had C.W. Anderson, Rob Van Dam, Gangrel. These are all legends from the 80s and 1990s that it would like really kind of some of them shaped my childhood in a way, like watching them and um, watching TV in the 1990s. So it's really cool some of these names that you've had.
Yeah, I love talking to Gangrel. He was amazing. Getting to talk to him about how he, got into wrestling, watched in his home of Florida and training. Was really humble, um, and seeing what he does as far as helping others. Epilepsy awareness. We talked about that.
That's
Um,
me. I'm a epileptic as well. So
really.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah, I discovered this when I was actually like 28 years old. It was like
Hmm.
so it was like later in life. It was my ex-wife that I was actually home alone with my daughter the first time it ever happened to me, and she was like only a year old, and then eventually it happened when my wife at the time was around, and well, they did a bunch of studies, and that's what they found out, and so epilepsy is no joke. I tell you that much. It's
No,
no,
no, it isn't.
it's very serious.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be very lenient and helpful with fellow
Yeah,
epileptics. So
that's good. I mean,
yeah,
it's horrifying whenever you go through something like that, and to be able to overcome it is just an inspiring story. So I'm glad you
yeah,
were able to overcome that, and are now paying it forward.
yeah,
Yeah, Gangrel was great to talk with. I also just had on Ken Anderson recently, Mr. Kennedy.
yep,
I enjoyed talking with him a lot too, and how he was able to um, really like you see how he was so good on the microphone
yeah,
because he did a lot of acting and forensics. He talked about that as well as doing stuff with athletics. But seeing him being able to get involved with his, calling basketball games and seeing how he was able to transition some of that, parlay that into his character,
right,
it makes sense now how he was able to get that good. And to me, he's one of those characters that you go, wow, I remember this guy,
yeah.
from my childhood. So that was a fun interview as well. I like talking to Victoria. She's been great. Uh, Victoria.
She was awesome. I met her at a convention a number of years ago. It was probably 2 years ago, and I'm just kind of walking around. I was at the convention representing my podcast and selling merchandise and stuff, and we were kind of seated diagonally across from each other. So I'm just kind of like walking around, and then she started talking to me. I got to tell you, she's one of the most friendliest human beings you'd ever meet. Like she was like,
Exactly.
and she was like, "Oh, let's take a selfie." You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, like, so she was real cool to like meet and talk with and hang around with for about a good half an hour or so. And that's the aspect of going to like conventions and hanging out with some of these professional wrestlers and stuff like that.
Exactly. I had the chance when I went to WrestleCade a couple of years ago. My booth was right next to Teddy Long's, so getting the chance to talk with him, and of course later I got to interview him as well, was a treat. It was I couldn't have been honored, to be next to Teddy Long at the convention at WrestleCade, talking with him, telling stories, and seeing how so many people came up to him. It meant a lot to him, and he told me that
Yeah,
when I had him on the show. Seeing people come up to him, the amount of people that remembered him from his days as general manager of SmackDown, and how he will always be remembered as one of the best authority figures of all time, and in my opinion, one of the best to do it.
yeah. He was a great talker. When he was managing Doom, it was fun. His heel turn in WCW was to me, it was amazing. I loved it, and it's like it was funny when he first came into WWE. They put him back as a referee. It's like they didn't even really mention anything about his past in WCW. And then all of a sudden, he was like an authority figure, and it was like, okay, they're using him to his full potential because that guy could talk. I tell you.
He really, like, you could believe, like, when he would deliver like an announcement, like you could
Yeah.
get into it, and that's what I love about Teddy Long, was that he is just such this charisma about him.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, let's see what else. Where else are we going here? You had Soraya on too, which I'm just
Yeah,
like that was at one point one of the biggest female professional wrestlers of all time. I think this is when was this around the time she was leaving AEW?
yeah. So she had just released a book that came out a few months ago, and she was someone who I've wanted to interview, and I just happened to contact her PR publishing team for her book, and I just was like, "Hey, I'd love to have her on if possible." I don't know, because you just never know. Sometimes, people are busy, and it's hard to reach out to people, and you may hear back, you may not hear back, and so I luckily was able to get that interview with her, and I felt it was one of my best ones, and getting to hear her story, getting the chance to talk with her about how she, came from this wrestling family and really knew she wanted to do it and followed her dreams and passions. Seeing what she's doing now, overcoming so many obstacles. I mean, kudos to her.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
Yeah. There's also like downsides to podcasting as well. We're talking a lot of the positives, but there's also the times where you book somebody, you send them the link to connect, and then they don't show up. There's happens, that's kind of heartbreaking a little bit, or sometimes when you message somebody and they just never get back to you. You know what I mean? I've been denied some really good interviews, and it's kind of disheartening a little bit. Sometimes it makes you wonder if you should really be doing it. But it's like, but there's more than enough guests out there that will gladly be a part of your podcast.
Exactly, and that's kind of why I want to kind of expand my brand outside of just doing the podcast itself. Like I said, syndicating it on radio, getting books published. Really want to make this thing something special and unique because you don't really see a lot of wrestling podcasts out there like this, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to
Right.
do with Wrestling with Heart. We just joined the Pantheon Podcast Network
Nice.
a while ago, so I'm happy to be part of that team. Um, and trying to get the show on radio through different outlets, community radio, public radio. That's kind of what I'm hoping to do in the coming months is try to get that out and turn this into something special.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me about the podcast network that you joined, because this is the first time I've heard it. What other podcasts are on that network?
Yes. So, Ring the Bell is one of the podcasts that's on there, hosted by DS Shen. I think there's one called The Fall Count. They've got a. It's mainly a music based um, podcast network, but they just got some sports. They're starting up a new sports division, so I
Okay.
signed up. I signed up there, and so hopefully we start um, picking up more momentum and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And y- necessarily joining a podcast network, it can have its ups and downs. I mean, but it could also, you know, the expansion, as long as there's like a lot of bigger podcasts. Like that sounds like it has a variety of podcasts, different kind of podcasts between the sports and music, and so it could be like a lot of momentum going in with your podcast, and a lot more distribution as well.
Exactly. Yep. Trying to get on multiple platforms. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeart. Wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. So just trying to. Our goal is to. We just got over 800 subscribers. Obviously, thank you.
That's awesome. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. So
I That's not easy, I'll tell you that.
no, no.
So
I mean, for small content creators, I mean, it
yeah.
really it's a huge milestone. So obviously the next one is 900, and then of course 1,000. So
Yeah.
hopefully just little by little we're starting to get some upticks here, and yeah, that's kind of the goal is to start really rising and being one of the
Bigger podcasts.
establishing
Yeah.
yeah and
Yeah.
establishing a presence. So
It's not easy to get 1,000. Once I hit 1,000, I was able to monetize the channel. But then it's like they want you to continuously create content. YouTube, and it's like I'm on the road to 3,000 now. I got what was it?
congratulations.
Thank you. I have, was it 29? Yeah, 2,915 subscribers. I need 85 subscribers to hit. And I'm saying, anybody that's listening to this, go to the YouTube, please subscribe. Trying to reach 3,000 by, I don't know, what do you say, the fall. So it's like I need 85 subscribers to,
Yeah,
come on,
good
YouTube.
goal.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I mean, I think it's possible,
Yeah.
as long as I keep working. And now I discovered this somewhat recently is a big part of being a YouTube creator. You just brought up YouTube. That YouTube Shorts really help you
They do.
grow your
They do.
brand. But the thing is, now, when YouTube Shorts first started, it was you couldn't do it over a minute. And now they just added it recently, probably in the last like month or two, that you could do up to 3 minutes,
Mm.
which I discovered that a lot of things, if it's 30 seconds or under, that's where all the views come in. anything over a minute, it just seems like sometimes you just don't get the views. Like, and you've been creating YouTube shorts, I believe, since the beginning, putting up clips on or in reels on Instagram and Facebook and such.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but if this is something you want to do and are passionate about, you got to go for it. So
Yeah.
I think that our highest one was actually, I don't know if it was or not. I know one of my clips with Soraya got 2,000.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal. So
Yeah.
trying to get, hopefully we can get more clips like that in the future. So
Yeah.
it's a work in progress, like anything. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to grow and market it, and get more people to know about it because, um, there's so much content out there. You have to do something to make yourself visible and noticeable, and that's my goal with this.
Yeah. And I've been creating YouTube shorts related to the shows, clipping every show, putting it up there. Release. I mean, now do three different podcasts. So there's this, the Pro Wrestling Wire podcast. There's my podcast, which is the Rick Del Santo show, which is completely different. And then and then the main event memories is which is my newer one, which I've been doing for about 4 or 5 weeks, which is just interviewing the legends of professional wrestling. And I recently had a guest that you got on. I reached out to him because of you. Was Mr. Tony Garea, who I have to say he was very generous with his time, very nice guy, and he had some really great stories.
Yeah, he was another one I enjoyed talking with as well, and had a very good childhood and background, and how he got into wrestling and mentoring the young stars, and helping some of the guys out. Very, very nice guy that I enjoyed
Yeah,
speaking with.
yeah, and we'll wrap it up in a few minutes, but I want to ask you about a couple other names. Like
Yeah.
you know, you got to interview, like you interviewed geez, Dustin Starr from Memphis Wrestling, which is I watch Memphis Wrestling each and every Saturday morning or afternoon. It's on the afternoon here, at 1 o'clock on YouTube. Couldn't watch it yesterday; it was a little too busy, so I know I'll get to it later today. That's one of my favorite weekly TV shows. It's I'm not sure. Do you continue? Do you watch Memphis Wrestling or?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'll watch both old and new school Memphis wrestling. I love Memphis wrestling because I feel
same.
like as someone that's from Tennessee, getting
You
a
have
chance to
to.
see, yeah, and I feel like it's I love learning about the territories. That's kind of one of the reasons why, I'm still a fan, is to learn about some of the guys, where all these guys, came from.
Right,
And our favorites, like Hogan and Macho Man and The Rock and Stone Cold, The Undertaker, like they all came through Tennessee,
right,
and they got to wrestle in Memphis as part of that, as well as Nashville. And so I've watched both old and new school Memphis wrestling, and I actually happened to be friends with a guy who was a part of that era, or actually back in the early days here in Nashville. His name was Len Rossi.
okay,
He was a wrestler back in the he wrestled in Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, Birmingham, Alabama. He was a very, what you'd call a technical wrestler
right,
back in the day, and then he switched over into working in the health food store business. He had a store in the Brentwood area before he passed away. So I actually got the chance to speak with his grandson about a year or so ago about Len and what he was able to do to help other people. But Len was a good guy, nice guy to me, and I always enjoyed going over there to hear his stories. He would talk about how he would, wrestle guys like Jackie Fargo and Tojo Yamamoto. He even was part of a team with a guy by the name of Bearcat Brown, who was an African American wrestler, and actually broke barriers in Birmingham. Was like the first biracial mixed race tag team in the South. It was unheard of back then, but these guys, helped break
right.
barriers, and a lot of people, came out to see them.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing that you just mentioned that you love learning about the territories, etc. Because you're still relatively young. I mean, you're a lot younger than I am. So, but it's really cool to see guys at your age, or folks of your age, learning about that stuff and wanting to learn about the where the history of the professional wrestling is. or was rather. I've just bought the book on Wilbur Snyder, which I'm really looking forward to reading. There's a number of books that are coming out that I
Yeah.
really, really, really want to read. So you know, it's always exciting because there's always more information coming out or more information that you could find. And I love looking for like obscure territories, like stuff that there's not a lot of footage of certain territories still out there. So, and then it's like, was it Joe Dombrowski is releasing DVDs of a lot of stuff, and the Savoldis are putting those same DVDs up on their streaming network, like the recent IWA footage, and then the Central States, which is, it's today the Central States territory isn't necessarily talked about as nearly as much as say Memphis or the AWA or certain things like that.
Hmm.
So it's always exciting when something pops up and you get to watch it.
Exactly. And if I see like, because the footage of Nashville stuff and Memphis stuff pre maybe 1978 is
Yeah,
erased, but seeing like rare footage, I enjoy checking it out.
yeah,
Especially stuff that happened like at the fairgrounds here in Nashville. I enjoy watching that. It's pretty amazing to see
yeah.
these old clips.
Legendary building. It's funny because I interviewed Reno Riggins a number of years ago, and
Hmm.
he said that he would go there, and that's where he met Tojo Yamamoto, and Tojo told him that he would meet him there and train him there. And basically, was it for weeks he had him running circles around the arena before he actually, and then noticed that he's like, "What's going on?" It's like I haven't even stepped foot in the ring, and I think that he ended up once he saw that he was had the determination. That's when he decided to actually train him in the ring. So because he
That's
was
cool.
doing whatever, and yeah, Reno was a good interview. We sat there for like 2 hours. He had so much great information about the territories, and then jumping into WWF and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and I love. I'm a particular. I live up in Connecticut. The funny part about it is like I love Southern wrestling. A lot of stuff up here. I mean, I do enjoy it to an extent, but I'll sit up at night and watch old Memphis wrestling and stuff like that, like Southern wrestling, the Smoky Mountain, and all that kind of stuff. That is my bag right there.
And I feel like that stuff kind of paved the way for what we see now with all like the brawls and the Tupelo brawl that they did back in the
Yeah,
day. I feel like paved the way for stuff like ECW and all that
absolutely.
stuff in
Yeah,
the 90s. So you just it's really like the innovative stuff that they did really helped shape the form of what we see today.
some of the characters that they would come up with, it's that I think that definitely influenced like the big character boom of the
Mhm.
1980s into the 90s, where everything was just a gigantic character. Um, so Memphis and stuff like that, it's like you said, yeah, it was very influential, and they were the first to do a lot of stuff, but unfortunately at the time, a lot of it didn't reach outside of Memphis television wise and stuff like that because of the way cable was set up then.
Mhm. Also music videos too. That was another one that they did.
Yep, yep. The fabulous ones were doing videos, the Fantastics, obviously Lawler and Bill
Mhm.
Dundee, stuff like that. Yeah, the music videos were definitely a thing. They were one of the first, I think, territories to use music regularly for like just about everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So, Stanley, what else do you have coming up? Let's tell the fans what you have coming up in your days
Yeah.
as a podcaster, and going forward.
Yeah, so our 200th episode comes out next Wednesday. We put out episodes Wednesdays and Fridays. Our 200th episode, I'm happy to bring back Hollywood, Jean Bassone. She is from Glow
Hmm.
back in the day. She just put out a new book, Hooray for Hollywood. We've got her coming on the show. Um, who else do I have coming up? I've got some pretty interesting guests, pretty good guests that I've booked and lined up. So just stay tuned. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Like I said, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, everywhere you can get your podcast. We're also on social media. So Facebook, just type in Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr. We're on Instagram at Wrestling with Heart. We're on Threads, also at Wrestling with Heart, and Blue Sky. We just launched less than a year ago. Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Carr. Always looking to get new followers, and of course more subscribers for YouTube and for all the other pages. So follow us, tell your friends about it, like it, share, subscribe. Your content and support means a long way to us. And June 21st, we're back at the Armory again, Nashville City. Come on out, see us, CHW Championship Honor Wrestling. And Rick, again, I thank you again for having me on. I'd love to have you on my show again, too.
All you got to do, you know how to find me.
Exactly.
Thank you, Stanley, for coming back on. Folks, go check out Wrestling with Heart.
Again, make it a point. Check out Pro Wrestling Wire. They got lots of great interviews, lots of great wrestling news. You can check them out online and make it a point to enjoy the best in professional wrestling right here on Pro Wrestling Wire.